Why cheat when you can leave the relationship? Some people get a dopamine hit in their brain from cheating and a sense of comfort and familiarity being in a relationship. They want both. Why would I abandon the safety of my relationship when I can simply lie? The logic. Oh, hi, my ex. It was just one time, babe. It didn't mean anything. Tilda. My favorite lines are, it was an accident, or, oh, I was drunk, I didn't know. My penis fell into her vagina. It was the damnedest thing, darling. I swear it. Total accident. I came close to cheating once, and it was because I didn't admit to myself just how unhappy I was in the relationship. I kept telling myself I can make it work. Then I was put in an environment that had several ladies that were happy to talk to me and be around me. That dopamine hit was massive, and I can 100% see how it can just happen. Luckily, I allowed myself to be honest about my feelings and broke up with my ex before I did anything. Do everybody a favor. Always be honest with yourself. That exactly how it happened with me, except it did happen. Literally blew up my whole life and almost my career, and I still, 8 years later, am dealing with the shame and guilt of everything. It was happening way more than I realized and way too fast. The other person was providing me with all the exact things my relationship had been lacking. It was the perfect storm. Unfortunately, I went deeper into the eye of the storm instead of coming inside. It was the absolute hardest and worst time of my life, let alone the fallout with my partner and all the people around us. Learn from me, people. Don't do it unless you have no conscience or empathy. Which is the only possible way I see people being capable of doing this more than once. Yep, almost the exact same thing here. We had been long distance our whole relationship because of jobs, school. Finally got to within an hour of each other. Started a new job. Got closer than I should have to a coworker. Knew it was dangerous but didn't expect things to happen one night until they did. I tried twice to break things off, but I couldn't process that I kept going back because I was so unhappy with my relationship. I ended up building a whole second life because I was happy in one but too ashamed to leave the other. And then when everything came out, I lost both lives. Everyone, rightfully, disowned me. Social life gone, and honestly I'm too messed up emotionally to even try to start again. I don't even go to work events for fear of people who may know. In the moment, it was opportunity. Then it was a dopamine hit I got addicted to. And none of it was worth it. At all. Just walk away and sort out your existing relationship, one way or the other. Ah, that's so tough. Luckily, I immediately told my partner. If it had continued longer than the 2 weeks it did, I can only imagine how I would have spiraled. Your life isn't over and you aren't a piece of shit. Go to the functions, who cares if people know? Keep your head held high and call it a tough lesson. A lapse in judgment and a big mistake doesn't mean you deserve your life to be over. The key is to reflect and learn. That's not a one-time lapse in judgment. It was done over and over even though they knew it was wrong. That's much worse. Yep, that's why I don't call it a mistake. A mistake is when you don't know that what you're doing is wrong. I made decisions that I knew were bad, and eventually that I knew were wrong. And now I'm living with the consequences of my actions. I'd like to believe one day I won't be a piece of shit, and I am getting help and trying to work through my clear emotional issues and become a better person in the future. But this spiraled for a long time and I have a very deep hole to climb out of before I feel comfortable keeping my head high. Although I do appreciate their sentiment. Some people want to fuck cake and eat it too or something. Cheating is, famously, a thing people only do after thinking really hard about it and weighing their options. From my understanding, it's better to have the safety net of the familiar and go do whatever than to end things and risk things not working out. Easier to use someone as a safe space and explore rather than taking the risk alone. This isn't the only type of cheating, but it's the most dangerous. The other types are the ones that just like doing what's in the moment and not caring about anything long term. It's bad, but there will be tons of signs that this is their typical behavior. But the type that you describe is much, much worse. This type of cheater will lie to your face and act perfectly normal. Meanwhile, they are cheating on you physically or emotionally or both. They make you think things are fine between you two while they are entertaining others secretly. And they keep entertaining until one becomes serious enough that they break up with you and lie to you about the reason. You'll never know it's because there was someone else. They'll just disappear from your life, and a few weeks later they're publicly dating someone else even though they've been dating much longer than that, but won't say anything because then they'd be the bad guy. Or they won't break up with you and just start acting worse and worse. Until you become the bad guy by breaking up with them, and then they run to the next guy in line as if it was completely unexpected. This is the type of person who speaks ill of their partner to other potential dates to get sympathy and to make it seem as if they need to be saved from a toxic relationship. No one likes cheaters, but everyone wants to save the person they like from a bad person. Because you can't cheat when you're not in a relationship. Duh. This is such an interesting take. When there are kids and a mortgage involved, that's easier said than done. Not condoning it, but conventional and flawed wisdom often values stability and security over honesty. And sometimes people just get stuck in abusive one-sided relationships, but their upbringing has taught them to stick it through no matter how bad it gets. It's amazing I had to scroll down this far to see mention of kids. I would never cheat on my wife, but imagine that someone else with kids, financially bound, with a loveless relationship could. Not everyone realizes or believes divorce is healthier for the kids most of the time than sticking it out, and not all areas' court systems treat divorce fairly, for one gender or the other, or even allow divorce. I appreciate an honest question, but Op has either not thought about it very hard or is fairly young. Especially when your partner decides they found God or just doesn't want to touch you anymore. Oddly specific. There's another one. Partner is emotionally and financially abusive and makes it difficult to leave. Especially after you tell them several times you want out, and they keep manipulating you. Is it wrong to cheat in that situation? I would say no. I'm sure plenty of people will say yes because it's so black and white for them. But after nearly 40 years on this earth, the thing I've learned is nothing is black and white like that unless you're a 20-year-old with no baggage. There's also a certain thrill of sneaking around. Some people get off on the gotta hide whatever feeling they get from cheating. Also, if they leave the relationship, then they lose whatever perk of that relationship. It's hard to survive in the world on a single income. When I was 19, I snuck around with a guy, and I won't lie, there was definitely a sense of thrill to it. We were both single, so no cheating involved. Both just looking for a friends with benefits situation, but didn't want our respective groups of friends to know, for reasons that made sense at the time, but now sound dumb. I'm kind of glad I experienced that thrill, but it's definitely not worth breaking someone's heart and trust for. Cheating is a suck-ass thing to do, and I'm not defending it, but many married people are financially bound together but unhappy. It's the wrong thing to do, but it may go some way toward explaining it in many circumstances. Sadly, that is true in a lot of cases. I knew a couple guys who were in really unhappy marriages but stayed in it because they had kids, and were terrified the divorce would mean they'd only get visitation, not custody, and some other guy would be raising their kids. So they stayed in the marriage but had affairs, because they were no longer in love with the spouse, had emotionally checked out already. Not justifying their cheating, by the way, just mentioning a scenario that I don't think is uncommon. To add to that, there can be cases where someone really does deeply love their partner, but they aren't being fulfilled in that way. Disclaimer: I hate cheaters. I've never done it and I never will. That said, after spending 4 years caring for a partner who isn't in good health, I can kind of understand it. This is based on my experience, and the experience of my best friend who watched her partner die of leukemia. Suddenly, your whole relationship becomes about them. Doctor's appointments, treatments, waiting on them. Hand and foot. You're not quite sure how it happened, but suddenly you can't tell where partner ends and caretaker begins. You're constantly stressed, constantly worried, and constantly moving. From the time you wake up until the time you go to sleep, every free second you have is theirs. You're waking up in the middle of the night to do things for them, taking on all of the cooking, cleaning and other housework, and trying to not only respond to but predict their needs. You don't remember the last time you did something just for you, because that's fun and games. You have work to do. It's torture to watch someone you love suffer, and you can't even lean on them for support. They don't have the energy to take care of themselves, nonetheless telling you how much they appreciate you. Sure, there might be a thanks here and there, and you know they mean it, but it gets taxing. Your heart breaks for them and some days you still see that light at the end of the tunnel, but